One of them sucks and the other one doesn't. This video is to answer the question, what is the difference between Jeremiah and Conrad's love? Did we all scream when Conrad Fisher put out that cigarette? Absolutely. Put out that blunt. Was it a blunt or cigarette? I think it was a blunt. Does Jeremiah have those moments? Not really. Not really. Jeremiah actually has the opposite. Jeremiah has the cringiest moments. Why won't you play with me?
Pretty please.
Immediately ick. Immediate ick. Immediately there was no coming back for this man.
Pretty please. What are you doing? Oh God, no, please. No.
If you don't leave a like for me, leave a like for Lily, please. At the very least. At the very least. She's starving. She's starving for likes, you guys. Do it for her. Do it for the cat. First, being selfish versus thinking of your partner. Basically, Jeremiah has selfish tendencies when it comes to putting himself first versus Belly first, whereas Conrad is the opposite, but also can be to a detriment. He can be almost too giving to a detriment. So we have opposite ends. First with Jeremiah, definitely puts his needs before Belly. For example, all the way back to Fireworkgate. Now I'm not going to talk about this too much because I did, again, talk about this a lot in my Jeremiah video. But basically, seeing that Belly could have been happy with Conrad, seeing that she was about to do something that makes her happy, he didn't give a shit. He didn't give a flying if that made Belly happy. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna destroy this girl's life right here because I want to be the first kiss. I'm about to destroy both this girl and my brother's lives right here by interjecting this kiss and then making it so that I'm her first kiss because I want that. I want that belly. I want that stomach. I'm hungry and I want that stomach. Whereas this is a bit different, obviously, considering that they are getting married. They've been together for 4 years at this point, so I get it. And they're older too, so this is a difference in that sense. But it is interesting in seeing the parallels with the way these scenes were filmed, the way that they play out, how they were both on the 4th of July. Where Conrad is the one in season 3 looking in the distance, and he's the one that's watching Belly be happy with someone else who is his brother. And he is the one who just lets it be. Just lets it happen because he wants her to be happy and he doesn't want to get in the way of her happiness. And he sees if Jeremiah is making her happy, he's not going to do anything to destroy that. Now, granted, he does admit his love to her a few days later. Ultimately, the comparison between these two scenes is huge in showing how selfish Jeremiah is and how he puts his needs before others and thinks of himself before others versus Conrad, who does see Belly happy and puts that above his own happiness, as ultimately being with her would make him happy, but he genuinely believes that she would be happy with his brother. The more examples for this in terms of the relationship with Belly, and not so much just about them as characters, but just in the relationship with Belly. Jeremiah consistently puts himself before her and his wants before her in season 3 in particular. He cheats, doesn't cheat, whatever you want to call it, it's still wrong on her, and then feels really guilty about it, wants to win her back. So you know what he does? He locks that shit down. He locks that shit down and proposes to her. And that's not out of the love of her. He's thinking about him because he wants to lock that down. He even admits it to Conrad later in the season. He says, can you blame me for wanting to keep her for a little while longer? Yes. Yes, I can. I can blame you for that, Jeremiah. This whole locking her down tactic was crazy to me. If he truly cared about her and her well-being, he would immediately have at least pushed the wedding by a year or two and not push it so much for them to get married immediately. As soon as he saw her family was upset with this. Laurel, she's been like a mom to you for years. Why wouldn't you keep that in mind? You at least have some kind of respect for her, don't you? Don't you? Maybe not. Laurel's request, a simple request. She didn't even say to break off the engagement. She said, sound advice, move in together or push the wedding. I'm pretty sure that was one of the things she said. Push the wedding? But no, he would not budge. He would not budge for his own selfish needs. He even lets Belly work her ass off for this wedding and raise money for this wedding, where here he is working at this Nepo baby job, barely doing anything. He's like, I'm so hot for you right now. I'm like, really? You know what would be hot, Jeremiah? Let your future wife rest and not slave herself away for a wedding that you're pushing her to do. Or maybe cut down on the budget. Maybe cut down on your freaking cacao cake. On the cacao budget. She doesn't have to stress for so much money. Maybe make it a very, very low budget wedding with just a couple plates, a couple people, and that's it. Oh, but still puts himself, not even himself too, but his dad, wanting to impress his dad. Invites all these random people for his dad, just not thinking about her whatsoever. It's just, ooh, that pissed me off. That pissed me off. None of this is for Belly. You think that cacao cake, that 2-tier mirror glaze, you think that's for Belly? No. You think that's for her? Absolutely not. We have Conrad. And he sees Belly struggling. He sees her a mess and sees how depressed she is right now, that she's not even eating because she's not talking to her mom because of this godforsaken wedding. What does he do? He contacts Laurel. He not even does that, but he makes her food first. He notices that she's not eating. And he's like, oh my God, I'm worried about my girl. Let me feed her. Granted, it looked like some dry-ass chicken, but he knows that that's a big reason why she's not eating. And that's an important factor to Belly, is that she doesn't have her mom there with her right now. And instead of Jeremiah trying to go mend it and fix it, I know he talked to her with Belly, but it was very much, again, just pushing his own narrative and pushing her to accept them instead of having a dialogue and having a conversation. It was just like, Laurel, let us get married or not. Laurel, you love me as a son. Just let us get married. Just be chill, Laurel, bruh. That's Jeremiah. Conrad, yeah, he actually lulls out with Laurel, has great communication skills, tries to talk her through it. We just want to see Belly happy. I know that you think this is a terrible idea. I have my reservations about it too, but at the end of the day, she's not eating and she needs her mom. Like, that's sweet, dude. Why did Jeremiah not do that? Yeah, because he's too busy sucking his dad's ass. Sorry. What one thing has Jeremiah done that he's like, this would make her happy? This would make her What has he done this whole season? Thinking about Belly and what would make her happy. I don't think I can name a single thing, to be honest. That's so bad. That's so bad. Yeah, and then obviously, yeah, like Conrad too, right? That he helps her out and puts her needs before his own because he was just trying to protect himself from his feelings for her. But even then, he can't help himself but to help her out that whole day, which is just so sweet. He plays solution man and helps her in every situation that entire day, such as the flowers. He tells her, hey, we could just use some for my mom's garden. And then the cow cake, he says, we could just cut back on the cake. And then even with Peachgate, right? Peaches, that was so sweet how he noticed that Belly wanted the peaches. We're just driving along the car and he's like, oh, do you want me to go back? And she's like, no. But then because he can tell just how much she wanted some peaches, just a little thing like that, he turns the car around just so she could get some peaches, which is absolutely adorable. Also, okay, this is like a little uncomfortable, actually a lot uncomfortable. Again, with Jeremiah pushing his knees, him pushing Belly to do the tango, the horizontal boogie. That was so uncomfortable, right? That was so uncomfortable. Oh my God, the way that I don't want to say he forced her, obviously, because she looked uncomfortable. She looked like she didn't want to, and the fact that he was still...
Give me a kiss.
I have to finish doing my hair.
You have time.
Shut up. Read her towels. She doesn't want it right now. Push away. Erase that scene from existence. I hated that.
We should probably...
No, don't stop.
We don't have to do anything.
No. I want to.
Actually ask her if she's okay, if she's sure. Oh, that was the first time, yeah, but even then, consent, making sure she's okay. Oh, that's basically the main highlights of the selfish behavior versus unselfish behavior. I will say, actually, to the point of Conrad being too giving and that being a detriment, let's be a little fair here. In season 1, so annoying, right? So moody. But then in his head, he thought he was doing the right thing by pushing Belly away when he was very emotional after finding out that his mom has cancer and could potentially die. And then going into their relationship, he also pushes her away during that time when his mom is close to dying, because again, he even admits it later on in the show that he didn't want to drag her down in his grief, and so therefore he pushes her away. But that's also obviously not the healthiest thing to do with a loved one in your relationship. He has that nasty habit too of not letting someone help him and wanting to take the brunt of everything and being the fixer person, and if there is an issue that he's going to be the one taking it on and not letting anybody else help. He's the one that wants to take all of it on, which obviously, yeah, it's just not that healthy. It's to his detriment too sometimes, but overall he learns to be better with it, I think, by the third season. But overall, I would say Conrad is more giving, shows a more healthy level of giving to Belly and thinking about his partner, as opposed to Jeremiah just thinking about himself. Focus on Belly versus focus on Conrad. Now, when I say this, I mean that Conrad was solely focused on Belly, whereas Jeremiah was really focused on Conrad. I don't want to say solely focused on him. Oh, man. It's made very clear on multiple occasions that Jeremiah has these insecurities towards Conrad and feels inferior towards Conrad, whereas being with Belly makes him feel superior to Conrad. And again, it can be debated if this is a big part of Jeremiah getting with Belly in the first place. Of course, I still do feel like a part of him does love Belly on his own regard, and it's not just to do with Conrad, but it does seem like a big part of him being with Belly is this weird way of him one-upping Conrad. Example A being, he didn't start showing interest in Belly until he saw Conrad was interested in her. Hello. Even though he recalls of when he first fell for Belly that summer and thinks about how hot she was when he first saw her, he didn't really start showing interest in her until Conrad. Because with Cam Cameron, yes, you can argue that maybe the way that he was picking at Cam Cameron can be seen as a jealousy tactic, but he really seemed unbothered. Like, he really did. He didn't seem that bothered by it. Whereas with Conrad, as soon as he saw them about to kiss, blew up that firework, and then went 10 toes in trying to get Belly. Like, was really gutting for Belly after that moment. I really do believe that there was some level of trying to get something above Conrad. That's a very telling point, for sure. The other thing is that when we get to his episode in season 2, he is constantly referring to Conrad. Whereas in Conrad's episode, he's constantly thinking about his memories with Belly. It's just such a great example of the difference between the two and seeing their perspective episodes. In Jeremiah's, it's always, oh, Conrad was always better, faster, and stronger with these things. And then he's like watching them talk, and he's like, Conrad never liked her. He didn't show interest in her at all before, and now all of a sudden he is. Oh, Conrad didn't get her the corsage. I would have gotten her the corsage and made her night perfect. I remember the first time I saw her that summer that I felt something, but then I also saw someone else maybe already had her heart and blah, blah. Like, he just kept referring to Conrad that whole freaking episode. And so then it's very much clear that a lot of this stems from a weird insecurity with Conrad. And that obviously with his dad obviously doesn't make things any better, but how his dad is always praising Conrad. Jeremiah doesn't get any of that affirmation except from his mom. And then unfortunately, his mom passes away, so then he's left with no affirmation apart from Belly and really relies on Belly after that. But we'll talk more about Belly and the Susannah relationship later. To go back to Jeremiah versus Conrad with their obsession with Belly versus Conrad. In Conrad's episode, it is purely just on Belly and his thoughts about Belly and his love for her. For example, with the whole bike scenario, how he wanted to help her. There was nothing about him versus Jeremiah in that scenario. He was just thinking about wanting to help her ride a bike and he didn't want her left behind in that situation. How he has to restrain himself from Belly and wanting to talk to her and be around her for Jeremiah, for considering his brother, but never a bitter, oh, Jeremiah doesn't deserve her, Jeremiah treats her like shit, Jeremiah doesn't do this, and this for her. It's never anything angry or bitter towards Jeremiah. It is solely based on his love for Belly. Adding on to this is Jeremiah just constantly trashing Conrad, that he just can't keep his damn name out his mouth. Get his name out your mouth. He just can't seem to help himself. He always trashes Conrad any chance he gets. Like, he tells Belly literally the day of their wedding that Conrad leaves. Conrad is the one who leaves. I'm the one who stays. Still comparing himself to him. And it's like, dude, stop. It doesn't help that it's true. They always have a love for each other, and Jeremiah knows this, but then he's the one at fault here for choosing to stay in this relationship for whatever reason. But he does always take the opportunity that he can to trash Conrad. He even says it in season 2 at one point, that he says, he dropped you, Belly.
This is the shit he does. When things aren't perfect, instead of trying to fix it, he just decides to throw it away. When shit got tough, he couldn't handle it and he dropped you.
Whereas with Conrad, he never trashes Jeremiah, and the only time that he sort of does is when he finds out that Jeremiah cheated, which rightfully so, it is absolutely just cause to trash on your brother. But up until that point, he doesn't say a single thing about how immature Jeremiah is, how self-centered Jeremiah is. He could very well clock Jeremiah anytime, but he doesn't. So that just goes to show that much more how Jeremiah is just obsessed with Conrad. Denise clocks it by the end. Thank you. We get confirmation by Denise. And he put himself in that situation to begin with this whole love triangle. If he just opted no and knew that Belly had those feelings for Conrad and was like, yeah, no, then you'd be fine. Obviously, things are made worse with this whole Christmas ordeal. But then Jeremiah obviously makes this even worse with keeping that information to himself, knowing that they saw each other at Christmas, and then forcing this fake fight between them, which then led to him getting permission in his head to sleep with someone else that's more sabotaging the relationship, and having the excuse to sleep with someone else that's sabotaging the relationship, getting back together with Belly. But oh my God, like this whole manipulative tactic, him very well still being insecure about Belly and Conrad and letting it affect your relationship. Like, dude, if you're letting it affect your relationship that much, if you feel that insecure about it, then get out of it. The other mention too, with this whole obsession over Conrad versus Conrad just loving Belly. Also, the way they flaunt it versus not flaunt it, because Jeremiah flaunts the shit out of Belly in front of Conrad's face. He was trying to make out with her in front of Conrad's face. How disrespectful. When you know that he loves her and has feelings for her, how disrespectful. And then the whole them getting married and him trying to force Conrad to go to ice cream with them. When it's like, bitch, be understanding. You do know that he loves her. You do. He even admits it. So why are you rubbing it in his face? Like, that's just evil. That is evil. Oh my God. He admits that. He admits it this season that he knows that Conrad's still in love with her. That he knew this whole time. So him rubbing all of that in Conrad's face is just rude. Like, that's just cruel. Whereas Conrad, all he did was freaking hold hands in front of Jeremiah's face during a family meal for Thanksgiving. And even that was too much for Jeremiah. And Conrad respected that too. When Jeremiah confronted Conrad about it, he respected it. Whereas Conrad had to remove himself and had to go to freaking LA or whatever the hell just to be away from Jeremiah and Belly. He had to remove himself from that. Jeremiah could not respect Conrad in that regard. That's crazy to me. Yeah, you had a good time taking care of my girl this summer. Me and Belly, we're going to be family now. We don't need you. You get that, right? Oh my God. Next up, after this, is codependency, right? The codependency is kind of insane here because here we have Conrad, which clearly chooses Belly from his own free will and wants to be with Belly from his own free will. And is anti-codependent, really. Because as we talked about before, when he was grieving his mom and going through his depression about his mom, he did not rely on Belly during that time. He made it so that it was not her problem and did not want to put that kind of pressure or weight on her, which obviously to a fault, because of course should rely on your partner to an extent. You should look to them as someone that you can talk to and someone that can help you. One of his biggest concerns was not to burden Belly. It's definitely very interesting in seeing how Conrad was very much, I don't want to drag anybody in my grief. I'm going to go through this alone. Whereas Jeremiah was very much vocal about, oh, you left me to Belly, and definitely expressed more of a want to have Belly in his life and sort of pick up the pieces. Once the mom passes away, once they're trying to figure out this whole house situation, they're very much, I wouldn't say dependent on each other at the moment, but they do refer to it in past tense once we're in season 3, how they helped each other pick each other back up, and they were the ones that did that for each other. It ended up being unhealthy where they depended on each other too much, and has now affected their relationship in season 3, where they exemplify over and over again that they rely on each other too much. Examples: Belly going to Paris. Belly wants to do this independent thing on her own for herself, and she unfortunately decides not to. She ends up going, obviously, eventually, but this whole time she decides not to do it simply for Jeremiah, because she's like, he needs me. He needs me right now. He just found out he has to take another semester of school. I can't just leave him alone. I have to be there for him. And it's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. It's just a few months, girl. Like, you can let him be for a few months. This is your dream. Don't let his up your dream. And that's exactly what she was letting happen. She was letting that affect herself and her own self of being. And her own self of being. Is that a phrase? She let it affect her, which is terrible. And it's interesting because when she first brings it up to Jeremiah, he's like, oh, I'd say you're stupid if you don't go. I say you're stupid if you don't take it, which is good. That's a good reaction. Yes, thank you, Jeremiah. But then later on, when they're planning the wedding, she's like, well, I'm going to be your wife, and I want to be away from you for the first few months when I'm supposed to be your wife. And he's like, okay, good, because I didn't want you to go anyway. Excuse me? Excuse me? Oh my God. You lied to her face. You lied to her face. I mean, granted, it was a good lie so that she could get out of there for her own self. That's good. But oh my God, like you depend on her that much that you can't even let her be for a few months to live out her dream in Paris? Oh my God, it's just crazy. It's so sad. Like, it's actually sad, you guys. What's very interesting is this catch right here. Is that, and I think this was done absolutely purposely, in the end of season 1, when Belly is talking to Conrad and they admit their feelings, she says to Conrad, verbatim, I want you to want me.
I don't want you to need me. I want you to want me.
And funny enough, with this dialogue, with Belly wanting Conrad to want her, a man to want her and not need her, she ends up going back against her own word and ending up with a guy who needs her.
But I needed you, and you just weren't there.
I found it very interesting how we have someone now who needs Belly versus someone who wants. Taylor ends up clocking this by the end of the season. Belly says some crazy dialogue too when they're on the phone talking about the wedding and stuff. Belly has this inner dialogue with herself and says something along the lines of, oh, well, we just need to rely on each other. We really need to lean on each other, me and Jeremiah. We just have to cling to each other. And it's like, girl, no, you should not just rely on a man. You should not just rely on one single person. And if you are, then let that person be yourself. But there are other outside sources. There are other people in your life that you should love and respect their opinions as well. It can't just be you and a man against the world. He even has this dialogue too after they make up. You left me, right? There's just so many examples here that show how Jeremiah does really depend on Belly, and then Belly in turn ends up herself depending on Jeremiah as well, and how they're like, frig the world, it's us against the world, and how toxic that mentality can be versus Belly with Conrad. Belly very much, as annoying as she can be towards Conrad, she also very much has her own voice when she's with Conrad, which is good. With Jeremiah, she pushes things to the side, which is bad, versus with Conrad, she will voice if something's bothering her, which is healthy. You should be communicative like that. She has her own voice with him. Versus with Jeremiah, again, things that bother her, she doesn't voice it. She just lets it be, which is also very unhealthy. For example, the whole freaking cacao cake, it was stressing her out, but then she was just like, okay. Didn't really say much to speak for her own mind, for her damn self, and just kind of let it be. Okay, the biggest one here especially is when Jeremiah admits to her that he's taking the job with his dad and that he's going to be away from her anyways during the time that she was supposed to be in Paris, and canceled Paris for him to spend time with him. And she just lets it slide. She just lets it be because she doesn't want to make him mad. She doesn't want to be the one to make any problems in the relationship. And that's also super unhealthy. I don't know if that relates to the codependency thing. It definitely isn't healthy, and it definitely makes it so that she feels that she can't speak her mind because she depends on this person so much, and because she wants things to be so great in her eyes with this person because it's the only person that she relies on and sees as a king essentially in her world. So why creating problems when he's the one person that you're relying on type of mentality, you know what I mean? Whereas with Conrad, it's not like that. Relationship with Susannah. I'm just going to briefly touch on this because I don't have enough, I feel, for this topic, but there is still a few points to make with this. And I guess the fandom had more of this argument, whereas throughout the show, like, I honestly didn't really see it, but I guess there have been debates of this one. But basically, Susannah's role and how she influenced her boys into falling for Belly and being with Belly. I do understand how she did put that seed in all of their minds that, yeah, one of my boys are destined for Belly. I do believe when Conrad reassures Belly that Susannah has nothing to do with his love for her, it is genuine because once again, he did not rely on her during his grief and getting over her death. He did not rely on Belly for that. And I do believe that he has been growing to love her on his own terms throughout all of these years, as we do see in all of these past examples and all of these past memories that he has of her. We see it all coming from him and not being influenced from Susannah. When they go to the amusement park and the bike and learning to dance, all of the unicorn, all of that was all him. That was not his mom. Whereas, funny enough, in the flashback we get, the one flashback we get of Jeremiah supposedly helping Belly and being there for Belly was actually influenced by Susannah. And we do get Susannah being the one asking Jeremiah to be there for Belly when she's sick. And Jeremiah actually complains about it at first and then, yes, ends up being there for her. But it's just crazy, that contrast of how Susannah did influence Jeremiah in that sense of like, hey, be there for Belly. And he listened, versus all of these flashbacks with Conrad that had nothing to do with Susannah. And then obviously with her death, like I mentioned before, how Jeremiah very much relied on Belly to pick up the pieces after the mom died. Also in Belly's case, she made that promise not to abandon Jeremiah. And so in her case too, that kind of goes back to the sense of like maybe Susannah had like a little bit of a role in Belly and Jeremiah's relationship, and that Belly feels guilty for the honor of Susannah if she's not there for Jeremiah. So that does kind of influence their relationship and how Belly is kind of there for Jeremiah because of Susannah. A little bit. Obviously not the whole reason of their relationship. But I think it did play a role in their relationship for sure. Whereas in Jeremiah's case, he very much even says in dialogue sometimes, mentions Susannah and how she would have wanted this and everything, and has kind of that mentality and idea in his head of how his mom wanted this. He weirdly does kind of relies on Susannah as a reason for being with Belly as well. Obviously not the whole reason why he's with Belly, but it is interesting in hearing in his dialogue and some of the things that he says that he refers to Susannah when it comes to Belly, whereas with Conrad, he never refers to Susannah whenever he's talking about Belly and his love for Belly. And then to further the point that much more, In season 1, Conrad does talk to Belly on multiple occasions and does say to not let his mom influence her and to not let his mom change her. They had that whole conversation about the debutante ball, and he kept saying to her how that's not you, you know, the doing this kind of thing is just not you, and to not let his mom change who she is because he loves who she is as a person and doesn't want that to change. Jeremiah says too, you're the daughter that my mom always wanted. Very much kind of relying on Susannah and what she wanted and her memory too, which is pretty interesting. Overall, the differences in their love, the differences in the relationship is, oh God. You know what? I'll let it be. Whatever, Light, screw you. Interesting in seeing the differences between the boys and their love for Belly, the way they love Belly, how their relationship with her is really clear. I think it's pretty clear who she should be with, and rightfully so who she ended up with. Let me know all of your thoughts. Let me know if I missed any key pivotal moments. I try my best to make this general and specific because obviously there's just so many moments within the series that you could make arguments for any of these segments, but I tried my best to keep it concise. Oh my God. What are you doing? Baby. Yeah. Hi, baby. Say hi to camera. Yeah. It's my baby. She likes sitting behind me and getting like squished. I may or may not do a Staler video. We'll see. Genuinely, I want to keep talking about the series. I'm also trying to be mindful of the rest of my subbers. I'm trying to be mindful of the rest of my subbies, my subscribers, my besties. Not all of you watch this show, and so I have to get back to making videos about other stuff. I want to make sure that I'm still doing other topics for you guys, of course, because there's other topics that I like to do on this channel. Comment below, too, if you're new to the channel, what other content you'd want to see, what other things you'd want to see me cover. I am considering doing Wednesday, but I'm debating that one. I also kind of want to rant again about Ryan Murphy because he's coming out with another Monsters story. Yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts if you have anything you guys really want me to cover. You know, if I was too harsh on Jeremiah. I still don't hate him. As much as it seems like I do, I don't. I promise you I don't. I'm happy that he ended up with Denise, and I'm happy he ended up with a happy ending. I actually am. I truly am. I think he's better off. I think he's gonna be a better person now. It's good. I feel like this whole relationship consumed him and brought out the worst in him, and now he can learn and grow. So that's good. I'm pro that. Go Jeremiah. I'm here for your character arc. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time. Mwah.